to Knights of the Round Table. Today is, drumroll, is the end of Season 1. We have completed our first season of the podcast. PBK, any thoughts on that?
Hey, we did it. We're in the double digits. We said that a few weeks ago, and this is going to be episode 16, if my math's correct. I don't have enough fingers to count that high.
I figured 16 episodes, that's as long as the NFL season, so that's a good NFL season. Season 1 coming to a close.
Well, we could say we're just coming into playoffs.
I don't know if that gives us a break for a couple weeks or how that's going to work. But the idea that I had is we're kind of in between. We haven't started up the systematic theology class back up yet. That's coming here in September.
Just a couple weeks away.
But I wanted to share, it's kind of interesting. My son Marty is our, what did you say your title was, Marty?
Assistant co-producer.
I thought it was just sound editor.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I like assistant co-producer.
Assistant
We
to
don't
the
give
co-producer.
salaries around here. We let people pick their title.
That's right. We're going to give you a corner office here soon, Marty.
So Marty has a pretty interesting story that not a lot of 19-year-olds have. And it's a pretty interesting journey that he has had with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so I thought we would just take an interlude here as we're looking for some episodes before we fire systematic theology back up for Marty to tell his story. And so, Marty, welcome to Knights of the Round Table.
Thank you.
Take us back to junior year of high school, the start date when you started to realize something's not right, Dad.
Yeah. Junior year of high school, I'm a boy. I was playing basketball, doing all the sports I could, being very active. I'm a very active person, and always very healthy. Been sick 2 times in my life. Randomly, slowly but surely, I started to wake up drenched in sweat. I would say that's the first thing I noticed.
And you slept in the basement where it was pretty cold.
Right. So it was out of the ordinary to wake up sweaty. I was always cold. But at first I was like the first time it happened, I was like, what in the world? Did I just pee in my bed? I'm 17 years old. I'm
Just soaked
peeing
in
the
sweat?
bed. Yeah.
Soaked.
Like drenched, get up out of bed, take the sheets, throw them in the washer, can't sleep in the bed.
Wow.
Soaked. And that was kind of weird. I was like, well, maybe I'm just getting really hot in the middle of the night and sweating. I didn't think much of it. It's not affecting me.
You didn't say anything to us for a while.
Yeah, it probably went on for a week. Honestly, if I'm being truthful, I thought I was peeing in my bed.
I'm not telling anyone.
Right, right, exactly.
Yep.
So that probably went on for a week or two. Some days it'd be totally fine, some days not. And then I would get really, really itchy. So basketball practice, I'm wearing my long socks, I'm sweating, my feet itchy, scratching them till they just about bleed. I thought maybe I've got athlete's foot. What in the world is going on? Go home, wash my feet. I'd wash my feet 2-3 times a day.
Wow.
Just, I don't know what's on them. Something's killing me. And it would go all the way up to about my knees, maybe my hips. Nothing else was really affected.
I would interrupt here. I remember you coming into our bedroom and begging Mom to itch my back. And I think you would pay your younger sister to itch your back and scratch your back. And I just thought, as a dad, what a weirdo. So.
Must be desperate. $5 to itch your back. That's the going rate.
Wow.
I kind of did start to tell my parents about it at that time.
So this is winter.
Yeah.
January, February.
December, January, actually.
Okay.
And then the last thing that really started to happen, and I didn't really notice it because everyone's got it, is just swollen lymph nodes. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets a swollen lymph node in their neck, their armpit when they get sick, whatever. But I specifically remember one time that really sticks out to me. I was bowling, and I really like to bowl. I take pride in my bowling game, but I was bowling, and every time I'd throw the ball, my armpit it would hurt. I'd hit something. I was like, what in the world is that? Well, turns out it was a swollen lymph node. I told my mom about these things, and she was like, well, we'll schedule a appointment with our primary doctor.
We figured it was allergies.
Going for
because
allergies,
of the itching,
right.
we figured you got allergies. All this
Right.
itching, you must be allergic to something. Mom tried a couple different detergents with...
Yep.
Yep.
So, went into the doctor's office. They did, the normal checkup. They set me up with a like an allergy test where they go stick you with a bunch of different random things, see what swells up. The next day, I believe, or we scheduled that for like a week in advance. So the next day, my mom came up to me in the kitchen. I just got back from school, and she shows me a list of symptoms. It was itchiness, swollen lymph nodes, weight loss. I lost weight. Tiredness. I was always tired. What's the other one? Night sweats. I'm like, that's me. That's me. And 5 things. And my mom covered up the top half. I was like, what are you covering up? What is that? What does that mean? She wouldn't tell me. And then I saw at the bottom it said lymphoma. And I was like, what is lymphoma? I looked up. She wouldn't tell me. So I looked it up. It was cancer.
Yeah.
And I just laughed. It's like, I have cancer. Come on.
Marty, did that sheet that she showed you, did that come from the doctor, or is that something she had done, like some self-Google diagnosing kind of thing?
Good question. So my mom at 11 o'clock at night, whatever, laying in bed, scrolling Facebook.
Couldn't sleep.
Scrolling Facebook. She saw this random article that said, girl in Great Britain diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma with weird, itchy legs as the symptom. So she clicked on it, she's like, oh, Marty's got itchy legs. And it listed all those symptoms. And she's like, oh my word.
Yeah.
That's like Marty.
So, I bet she has a mom that she responded differently than that. It was probably a little bit
Right.
more emphatic than that, I bet. But
I'm sure.
Very quickly, she's telling me at that time, I think this is it, Joe. I think Marty has cancer.
Which is, go up to a perfectly healthy 17-year-old, tell him he's got cancer. Like, really? Come on. Old people get cancer.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
yeah.
But
She shows you that on that phone.
And
you
I
look it up.
I brush it up. My first question was, well, is treatment painful? That was my first question. That was all I was afraid of. She's like, no, I don't think it's painful. I was like, perfect. Well, this will be easy.
Sure.
But she calls the doctor hospital the next day, kind of like, hey, I know I don't want to be that parent who asks Dr. Google everything, but I saw this, thinking maybe, this looks exactly like him.
Which, if you think about it, it is a little bit amazing that we took you to the doctor with these symptoms, and the doctor doesn't think, whoa, those are the symptoms for cancer. Here, let's run a test. But anyway.
Right on.
Right. So I believe I didn't really care, to be honest with you. I was like, whatever, it is what it is.
Just had no capacity to process that, really.
Right. So, but as far as I know, the doctor scheduled a ultrasound on like my spleen or my kidney or something like that to look into that. So I think it was like the next day, a couple days after I went in for that ultrasound, they canceled the allergy test. So I went in for that. I was like, I'm a 17-year-old boy going in for an ultrasound.
Wow.
That's weird. Pregnant women get ultrasounds.
Yeah, that's right.
So went and did that. That was interesting. I enjoyed it, honestly. It was cool to see.
So let me interject here. I think I can pick up from this timeline. I've applied at seminary, Puritan Reformed Theological Seminary. We had just moved back from Alaska. I was going to go to seminary. We were going to buy a house in Grand Rapids or rent a house in Grand Rapids. We're at the seminary doing the tour with Jonathan Beakey. Doing the tour, getting the whole, yep, this is great, yada, yada, yada.
And was this in like a day after my ultrasound?
Yes. And we get a call from the doctor. We're wrapping up the tour. Had just went through the library. We get this call from the doctor. The doctor tells Mom, You need to get your son in the hospital today. You need to take him to the ER. His tests came back. You need to take him to the doctor. I don't remember if she said it's not looking good or whatever. And so, the seminary there, they're cool guys, cool people, and they prayed with us. And so, come back, schedule doctor's appointment for the next day.
Well, and that's significant. It wasn't even just you need to take him to Mayo Clinic or this special, take him to the ER,
Yes.
wherever you are.
As soon as you can.
That's how dire this is.
Yeah.
So I think I was in school. It was convenient enough. It was a school cleanup day. So
End of the year.
Right. Yeah.
End of the year. So fast forward, we're in late spring.
No, this was still in February.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it was end of the year. It was just a
cleanup
day, a random cleanup day. I get a text, pack up for 2 or 3 days, where you gotta go to the hospital. Okay, cool. I get to get out of cleanup day.
Mm-hmm.
I remember telling my siblings, they were freaking out, crying, which scared me more than the original. We gotta go to the hospital.
Sure.
So we're pretty sure it's canceled. We were going to go to Florida for spring break, I believe. Is that why your brothers and sisters were crying? Because that got canceled?
Possibly. Maybe they just didn't tell me that. So went home, packed up a couple things. My parents just got back from Grand Rapids. They drove back, was an hour. Went to the hospital, checked into the ER. One of the slowest, longest days of my life. If you've ever been to the ER, hurry up and wait.
Yeah, things don't happen fast in emergency rooms. That's an oxymoron.
Right. I believe it was a Friday, so it was super busy. It was a Friday or a Monday. Those are the two of the busiest days. And so they didn't have a room. And we got there at like 2, 3 o'clock, and we didn't get a room till 6, 7. They start the IV, get the fluids going. Long story short, in the hospital overnight. And that's when it started to set in. Like, okay, something's happening that's going to change my life.
Yeah.
Things are getting serious. Doctors are coming in. They're not smiling. They're not laughing with me. So it got really serious there. They scheduled me for a surgery to do a biopsy, lymph node biopsy. They took it out of my neck. And I believe they told me that day. Yeah, so I got the diagnosis in that hospital that it was Hodgkin's lymphoma.
So let me back up, Marty. When was the first time someone told you, yes, you have cancer? It is cancerous or anything like that? Was there someone who specifically said that, looked you in the eye and delivered that? Or was it just kind of like the doctor had called and they said, yes, it's cancerous. We need to run a bunch of tests?
The oncologist always beat around the bushes. So they're not super direct with you. They were pretty confident. They said, we're pretty confident it's cancer. It could be non-Hodgkin's or Hodgkin's. Not much difference in them, a little different treatment. So they pretty much said, yes, it is cancer. We don't know how bad it is. We don't know which one it is. They did the biopsy. I remember we went into the clinic when after the biopsy, they were going to give us the results, and they said, yes, you have stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Wow. And my first question was, well, how many stages are there?
Yeah, that's good.
Well, there was only 4.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's awfully high. And then we were still in the hospital, checked in at that point, I believe. And I remember that night in the hospital, I was laying there, and I started crying, and I was like, I could die tomorrow, and I knew exactly where I was going if I died, and that was straight to hell.
Really?
Yeah.
You had a real clarity of exactly what your position was.
I knew exactly where I was. Well, to back up a little bit, I always knew, and I was extremely fearful of death because I knew I was not a Christian. But that night it was, I could die tomorrow. I don't know anything about this illness. I know it's serious to them, so I better get serious. And boy, that hit me like nothing's hit me before. And God used that experience to save me. I don't know if I was saved that night in that bed, but I know a week later, the pastor at the church we were attending preached a sermon, and his main concept was trials in life, believe it or not. And I was like, wow, this will speak to me.
Yeah.
So I listened to that one, and he said that something that stuck out to me, and it still does to this day, and it's, when you're going through a trial, don't be asking God, why are you putting me through this? Why am I going through this? The question to ask is, what am I to learn from this trial? And I was just like, wow. And so what I took from it, and whether it was that night in the hospital, I decided that, okay, that living for the world is, if I were to die today, I'd have nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's nothing worth living for if it's not for the Lord. And so that day, I turned my life to the Lord, I believe.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so here you are. You're coming on your junior year, and now you have to start treatment in Lansing at Sparrow Hospital. Some amazing doctors and people there, really good. My wife goes into Heidi not quite ready to be on the program yet to go over the minute details of everything, because
we'll have her on season 2.
Yeah, she really went into, I don't know what you'd call it, but amazing detail. I mean, this took over her life. So because, the doctors would start talking, and Marty's like his dad, and he'd just tone out. And, okay, you need this pill here and this, all this treatment plan. So Heidi goes into major medical management of and I hope that she will come on and tell her side of the story, because it's pretty powerful as well. So Marty's coming in the end of his junior year. You start getting treatment. What is that?
Yep.
What does that look like?
That treatment, it was 6 cycles, and there was 2 treatments per cycle, which was 2 treatments a month for 6 months.
Okay, 2 treatments for 6 months.
Correct. And this started in, I think, first treatment was like February 26th.
Okay.
So I finished in August 10th was my last chemo of 2022. So coming home from the hospital, they were kind of going to figure out the treatment plan. They figured it out. I didn't go back to school because COVID was still kind of finishing itself out. So I was stuck at home. All my friends.
When you're going through that kind of treatment with that kind of diagnosis, you want to be really careful about exposing yourself to COVID.
Sick, yeah.
Right. They were like, wear a mask in the house. If you're in your room by yourself, fine, take off the mask. But if any of your siblings come in, put the mask on. Hand sanitizer, which, if you know me, I'm not much of a germaphobe. So even now, but anyways, so I couldn't go to school. I was doing everything online. Super boring. I'm a people person.
So Marty, tell us the treatment itself. You start going to the hospital in this treatment, and it's, again, the people at Sparrow are awesome, but it's traumatic. It's, I went there a couple times. Mom did most of it, and you go in, and it almost, like, even the day before, you would get this zombie, very dark, okay, we got to gear up for going to the hospital. So you go into the hospital, you sit on this bed, and what happens?
I had a port, so a little bump in my chest. It's connected to a major artery. They take a big needle, jab it in the port, and start fluids. And you sit there for, I don't remember if it was 2-3 hours. And
It depends.
Yep. Depends on the treatment, but I think
they would put different things in, but then they would bring in the Red Devil, they called it.
Yeah, the Red Devil, just another drug. Honestly, I didn't see many of the drugs. It made me extremely nauseous to see them. The Red Devil, was a red chemo, and to this day I can't eat red popsicles because it's a red thing in a plastic tube, which is how the chemo
Right, it literally looks like this pint of red pop Kool-Aid that they bring in, and the nurse comes in and she's got all kinds of radioactive gowns on, and she's wearing that just to administer it, and they're pumping it into you. And so you kind of got up on the bed, got in the fetal position, basically quiet, sleep, don't talk to me, leave me alone.
Put headphones in, turn them up loud, and pray for sleep.
What are you listening to in your headphones?
Podcast, music.
Okay, all right.
Whatever.
So mom would usually go there with you. They'd fill you up, and then, you had a blanket because sometimes you get cold, stuff like that. And then so you're done. And pretty much mom is at this point asking all the questions of the doctor. What do I do? How do we, and she's getting all the information and caring for you. But then you really didn't like certain foods. And can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the first probably 6 chemos didn't really have any effect on me as far as nausea, maybe a little bit. Made me tired, I'd be a little nauseous for 2 days after, but nothing extreme. But during the end, it started to hit me a lot heavier. I remember one time I was eating these Cajun fries, and the only time I threw up in those treatments were these Cajun fries. I ate one of them, and it came up quick. I woke up from I was laying down, got up, did it, whatever. I won't make you nauseous, listeners, but so at that point I knew, okay, whatever I eat, I'm never going to be able to eat again because this is seriously messing me up. So I didn't, from then on, and for the rest of my chemos in my life, I never ate anything during chemos.
Sure.
The day of.
Correct. The day of, really. I didn't eat anything.
So I need to ask a question, and this is, Joe understands this story so much better than I do, but so when you would go in and you'd have these treatments and you'd go in and put your headphones on and just kind of go into that fetal position in that space, is it that when they administrated that drug and when it was going into your body that it was that uncomfortable and that unpleasant, or was it that you knew what was coming?
I knew what was
You
coming.
knew what was going to be a result
all
of that
mental.
treatment.
Yep, all mental.
That's what I was wondering.
Yep. The entry, nothing. Just my mind the day before, I knew it was tomorrow. It's just this weird, eerie feeling would come over me. I'd start to get nauseous. My body would feel different. Yeah. Super weird.
What I'm doing right now, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and feel as awful as I possibly can. And I know that's going to be a result of that. This is really kind of what was going on from a logical perspective.
Yeah.
Wow. As a 17-year-old.
Right. And there was nothing I could do. Nothing I could do to change it. During the end, I was able to take an Ativan, which saved me.
And what is Ativan?
Ativan is basically a drug for nerves. Chills you out a little bit and makes you sleep, which that's what I needed.
Sure.
So the doctors were really good with that, and then also some nausea. They have quite cocktails that they give because, and we could talk a long time about the medical staff and cancer and how much money goes into cancer research. And so there's so much information out there and so many things that they do to treat it and counter your things like that. And they were a huge blessing, but it was still a hard season. So we are up on our 20 minutes, but I think let's just go. And if people want to stop the podcast here and listen to it 20 minutes later, they can. And we'll just knock this all out today.
Yep. So I did that treatment until August 10th. August 10th, I had my last treatment of that cycle. Everything was looking great. My scans looked clean. Cancer was going away, dying fast. I was like, awesome. This was a super treatable cancer. Like 80% of people who are treated, it never comes back. I was like, cool, it's done. Not that bad.
What time of year is this?
This was summer. So
school's out.
Right. School got out. I was enjoying my summer. I had to go and get chemo. It sucked for 2 days, but after that I felt right back to normal. At around August 10th, we decided to move.
Right. So in our journey here, I wasn't going to go to seminary, so I started to look for churches that were looking to be revitalized. We have an online business that we run, and so we can live anywhere with internet. So we just wanted to go and, bring the whole family into a church and just be a shot in the arm to them. Well, long story short, providence of God, a friend of mine told me about churches in Alaska. We'd lived in Alaska before. We loved it. Contacted a church there. Sat down on an interview with them. Marty's better. They told us, he's clean bill of health. He's good to go. And so I interviewed with this church for a pastor position, and they said, hey, we look at your resume. Would you consider applying for the principal job at our school? We really need a Christian in there. And long story short, I applied, got the job. The only house big enough for us to all live in was a bed and breakfast. Mm-hmm. Providence of God, we buy that. So we're running this bed and breakfast in a remote island in southwest Alaska. I'm the principal of the school. Marty's got a clean bill of health. They tell us that this team, they have state championship basketball aspirations. And so we invited Marty's cousin, who is the same age, to come live with us for a year because he's a really good basketball player and he loves to fish.
Stacking the team.
Yep, stacking the team. I'm a bit of an amateur GM. So we all moved to Southwest Alaska together for Marty's senior year.
Hello, listeners. This is Joseph Jr., and unfortunately we have to wrap up this episode, but make sure to check in next week for the rest of Marty's story.